Welcome to The Love Affair, a relationship podcast. Listen in as we discuss all things love and relationships starting now. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Love Affair, a relationship podcast. I'm your host, Robin, also known as Robin the Renaissance.
And I'm her husband and co-host, Jimmy K, and we're still in the series, Fighting to Win. In this episode, we're talking about fighting styles.
Yes, we're continuing the conversation from our previous episode where we discussed the Gottman Institute's The Horsemen of Divorce. And we shared that we created a list of fighting styles. So if you missed any part of that conversation, we'll encourage you to go back and listen to it because we are going to pick up where we left off there. And before we do, we'll just give a really quick high-level overview of those 4 Horsemen of Divorce and a list of the fighting styles we came up with, all of which was based on our inspiration from the movie Creed 3 and our lived experiences with different types of fighters and also identifying our own preferred fighting styles at different times. So, yeah, good stuff out there, right? So, Jim, could you talk to us about and just list what the 4 Horsemen of Divorce are?
They are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And the list we came up with, fighting styles are petty, perfectionist, prosecutor, the person, the preacher, the performer, the politician, the placater, and the peacekeeper.
Yes. So in our previous episode, we covered the first 2 horsemen, criticism and contempt. And based on our list, we assigned the different types of fighters to a horseman. So we assigned the petty fighter, the perfectionist to criticism. And then we assigned the prosecutor and the person to contempt. In this episode, we are going to talk about the remaining horsemen and the remaining fighting styles. And we will even share with you the champion fighter, the fighter and fighting style that we all should be striving to become. Okay, we'll share that at the end.
All right.
All right. So, you want to start with defensiveness. Actually, I'm gonna start because I think I have it on mine. Defensiveness horseman is basically when one party or a party in the relationship is reversing the blame in an attempt to make everything the other person's fault. So they usually don't take any ownership of their role in what has gone on. It somehow they're always in defensive mode. They're always have a reason or excuse why they behave the way they do. And it's usually because of something the other person did first.
Yep.
So,
that's easy.
Yeah, very much easy to do. So one of the fighting styles we came up with that would go under that, or the fighting styles we assigned under that is the preacher, the performer, and the politician. And so we'll go through and explain how we came up with those or what attributes we assigned to them and also what the pitfalls of being that type of fighter is. So you want to talk about the preacher?
Preacher. We got that as they're above. They feel like they're above reproach. The devil made me do it. The devil made you / me do it. Holier than thou attitude. Self-righteous. Quote unquote, we're gonna pray for you. And grandstanding and monologuing.
Have y'all ever engaged in a fight with somebody who has a preacher's fighting style?
I have.
You have?
Yeah. I've also been that. In particular, the self-righteous, the self-righteous portion of the definition we came up with, or the attributes we assigned to it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely self-righteous. Now I say that because in my attempt to do everything right, I think a lot of times I feel like nobody, you shouldn't have a problem with me because I'm not intending to hurt anyone or hurt you. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just trying to hear you out.
I'm not intending. I'm making I try to live my life not to hurt anyone or hurt you. You know what I mean? So if you come to me with any kind of grievance, any kind of criticism, that self-righteous part of me kicks in. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh no, I'm not right. Oh, I'm not right. You're wrong, and you're saying this wrong because every intention of mine is to do the best I can and to do what's right, treat you right. You know what I mean? So, I can't. A lot of times, especially early on, I had a hard time seeing myself. You know what I mean? Because I knew how I felt on the inside. I knew what I was trying to accomplish. And you, Robin, need to see what I was trying to accomplish, not how it came out. You know what I mean? So I was very self-righteous.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
I'm teasing, but yeah, I think sometimes we all have a little bit of that in us for sure. But one of the things I want to point out about the preacher is how one of the other reasons why I think they're just awful. It's an awful fighting style to engage with or to even choose as your fighter of choice, to be a fighter. How did I say in the previous one? It's like pick your fighter or choose your fighter, and all of them have different attributes or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So everybody has a preferred fighting style, and the thing about someone who is what we would describe as the preacher is that they think they're above reproach, but they're actually not.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially and this isn't even in religious culture, right? Because you can behave this way in any forum. But they tend to have a reason and an excuse or a justification of some kind for how and why they behave badly. And sometimes if we talk about it from a religious perspective, sometimes they feel emboldened by the God of their religion to say whatever and do whatever, right? And then also, which is hard because it's kind of like, God ain't got you out here acting like this, or that's not the fruit of the spirit or whatever. But sometimes they feel like, they can because they are empowered by a higher power to say and do whatever because of their office or their position. But aside from the religious thing, there might be... there's the other part of that where it's like, okay, so say the preacher style, fighting style, say you do catch them and they are wrong, obviously wrong, and they are aware that they are wrong. The other way they are defensive is they don't take accountability. It's usually someone else's fault, and they will say, the devil made me do it. Or you're only acting like that because the devil is in you, and it's still like, who cares? Who's talking about the devil here? You did it, whatever you want to blame it on, we still going to talk about you. Because the devil didn't clock in, you did, in my opinion. Yeah. And so that holier than thou type of condescending, I'm going to pray about this, or I'm going to pray for you. As if,
they didn't have a role.
They didn't have a role in what is really going on, and it's so frustrating because they just won't cop to it. And again, this list is based on the experiences we had with the different fighters and the different personality types and how we engage with them. So, This is our personalized list of the people we would say, yeah, they got that preacher style. And then the other thing is they tend to feel as though if they do enough grandstanding and monologuing and they try to proselytize, I think that's the way it's called, evangelize you. And isn't that what it is, proselytize?
I don't know.
I think that means preaching or something to a degree. Some kind of way they turn the conversation into, an opportunity where you need to be taught a lesson of some kind,
Yeah.
If you were more, spiritually mature, or if you were more, if you understood like I understand things, it's a condescending personality.
Yeah.
And it's like, I do things by revelation, versus I don't know. They are just kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I just stick on the spiritual, the religious side of it. You know what I mean? We just, because preacher, when we're talking about in conflict or in this fighting styles, it's just somebody that's up there just, like you said, we got on there grandstanding, monologuing, yeah.
Yes, but I will say this, I added preacher to it because some people really do use their religion as both a sword and a shield. So they use it as a sword to cut other people up, right? To act poorly and to do things because they feel emboldened and empowered by the God of their choice to do it. But then when someone comes to them and say, hey, we got to talk about how your behavior is breaking down this relationship. And again, if we're talking in the relationship of a marriage or whatnot, and I'm trying to talk to you or you trying to talk to me about something and I got this holier than thou attitude and I'm hiding behind religion as well, only God can judge me. So they're using it then as a shield too, to deflect and to hide behind and not really owning their role, in what's going on. So that I think it doesn't just pertain to people who are uber religious, holier than thou types. It can go across the board, but it usually, and it does, but it usually is a specific type of fighter that uses whatever religion of their choice is to engage in that kind of behavior. And so what I would say are the pitfalls of that, not just that it's annoying and frustrating, right? But I think the pitfall is it's hypocritical. Number one, it's hard to be in a relationship with anyone that just won't take accountability, for their role, any part of the breakdown, right? And I think when we go back to the video, what the Gottman Institute had said about defensiveness, they said it's an act of self-protection. I think they said self-protection, self-preservation.
I can't really remember.
That can be because of what they say, righteous indignation or playing the victim.
Yeah.
But in either case, whether they feel justified in behaving that way or whether they just love being the victim, they have to make it someone else's fault instead of their own. And they suggested in there, they said, own something.
Yeah.
You just got to find a way to own something.
Yeah.
And
there's no excuse whether you're justified or not, or the victim, to behave poorly. And that's what we're kind of talking about, is the poor behavior during conflict. You know what I mean? It's no matter if you're right, 100% right, which hardly anybody ever is, or, you know what I mean, or you're the victim, that still doesn't necessarily give you the right to behave poorly. And that poor behavior is really what causes more of a breakdown in the conflict. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You're right. And one of the other things I would say is that not only is it hypocritical and it lacks accountability, it also means this person is unopen to feedback. And all of us should remain open to feedback. Again, we talked last episode, there is a difference between criticism and critique. You know, critique is constructive feedback.
You're right.
All right. So this particular type preacher, they're unopen to feedback because they tend to have this idea that only God can talk to them about them. Well, I have to pray about that and see what God has to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But in the meantime, while we're in this marriage or whatever, if you keep this behavior up, it is going to cause problems for me.
Yeah.
And it can erode the relationship. But yeah, you go and pray about that, you know, and it's just, yeah. So that's what we have on the preacher. Hey there, are you enjoying the conversation as much as we are? Then let us know. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're here every other Thursday with a brand new episode, and you do not want to miss it. Okay, all right, back to the conversation. Next on the list,
Performer. We got drama.
drama.
Overreactions and outbursts.
Yeah.
The fight is their stage. Weaponized tears and the grinder, which was we talked about in the previous episodes about the what do they call them?
Difficult people, dealing with difficult people and discovering our difficult styles. Yeah.
And a good example is the performer. Is,
Yes.
The Gayle King R. Kelly interview.
Yes.
R. Kelly, I'm fighting for my effing life.
You know that is a case study. I promise. Yes, it is a case study in trying to talk to someone about them and what is going on with them. And they put on a show. Boy, I tell you what.
He put on a show, and I think everybody else watching or know about R. Kelly felt like he was guilty, but he still was putting on the show.
He was putting on a show. The show must go on for people who love to perform.
Yeah.
And, you know, I enjoy watching some of those social media pages that are dedicated to, you know, certain demographics that like acting out in public. I just watch and I'm like, these people are insane. Yeah. But we see these types of performers, you know. Sometimes we see babies do it too. They be just putting on tears and crying and tantrums and stuff. But in real adult relationships and things like marriage, nobody wants to deal with a performer.
Right.
Nobody wants to deal with somebody who cannot control their behavior. They cannot control their mouths. They cannot manage their own emotions. If you're that way, I don't know what kind of help you might need, but you might need to seek it. You know? I'm serious.
Yeah. I think even if they don't need any help, I think they're just trying to get their way. You know, I think you said it already, it's a tantrum. So, you know, you're a kid and you throw a tantrum and you usually get your way that'll, you know, follow you into adulthood. So I don't know if that's a mental issue.
Well, I didn't say mental.
No, I'm just, when I hear seek help, that seems like, you know, leans towards a mental issue.
Well, I would say whatever help that needs to form, that help needs to be evaluated and addressed. Seek it. Because I've had, again, we talk about this primarily from the lens of a marriage, a loving, romantic relationship, you know. But we've all dealt with performers across the board, and you can't get anything accomplished with them.
Right.
I'm going to tell y'all something. We talked about, you know, Gayle King and R. Kelly, right? And how R. Kelly just was putting on a show. He had tears. He was angry. He stood up. He pranced around and, you know,
fight for
and I love how Gayle just sat there and was unfazed and she just wanted to move the conversation forward. And all the performers want to do is create so much ruckus that the point and the issue gets lost. And it's disruptive. And an even better one is somebody I'm entertained by and annoyed by us at the same time. I am quite obsessed with, is his name Eric Mays?
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever that man's name is, the councilman. I think Eric Mays.
Point of order.
Point of order. What's the, oh my God.
Bloviate,
He's
all that
bloviating. He is carrying on, right? And he will be an example of a performer to me.
Yeah.
Because I, as much as I see it on socials and I laugh, enjoy the reenactments, I had to think about this. I said, if I had to sit on the council with him, if I had to be in a relationship with him, if I had to try to conduct any kind of business with that man behaving like that, I would be ready to steal on him. And he be taunting people too, like, is that a threat? Let me go and call the sheriff or something because you're threatening a public official.
Yeah.
And so the thing about performers is they know what they're doing, and they're doing it to just be disruptive and to get their way.
Yeah.
But again, it's so ineffective because nothing gets accomplished, and
yeah. And we said it already, the pitfalls are civilized conversation is impossible.
It's impossible.
And their outburst distracts from the issue.
Yep.
So,
Point of
order.
Point of information.
Moving on to the next one. Point of order.
Yes.
And center.
Yeah. So the last one we have under defensiveness is
the politician.
The politicians,
they're good at dodge, pivot, deflect, twist, and wrangle. You gotta explain to me why you put wrangle on there. What do you mean?
Because you talk about, okay. Have you ever watched an interview like Meet the Press or anything like that where they interview politicians and they ask them a very specific question about a very specific topic, and then they might give these vague answers. They will then get all off topic, and then it's kind of like but a good journalist will bring them right back and say, yeah, I heard everything you said, but I didn't get your thoughts on building the wall or something like that, right? And then they might want to wrangle over, well, or do you mean building a wall or creating a safe border?
Right.
What is it? And it's like, what we talking about.
Right.
So they want to wrangle and play games over the semantics and details, and they just want to create a new argument within the argument and just boy, when I tell you all of these fighting styles are nuisances.
Every one of them.
If you have to contend with them, it is quite frustrating. But
without getting into any details, do you remember a time where you was a preacher or a performer or a politician?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh my God.
No details. I'm just saying, do you remember?
Yeah, I think I would say definitely. Out of all these three, I would have leaned more to the preacher because at a point in time, my religion really was my weapon of choice.
Yeah.
But also,
I guess I wouldn't. I wouldn't ask him in that way, but okay. But yeah, I already said I see myself as a preacher. I've been that way at times. Performer, I don't think either one of us really. We've had outbursts or whatnot, but that's not our.
That ain't our
default. But I definitely politicians do. I would dodge and pivot.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna nail me down.
Yeah, I think you probably more of a politician than me. But you know what? You know who's a good matchup? A prosecutor and a politician. Because the politician might want to pivot and jump and play around and act crazy if they want to, but the prosecutor has so much evidence.
Yeah.
You said what? No. Exhibit A.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too many things. They won't let, neither one of them is going to win, but the politician will probably find some kind of way to, again, just twist, deflect, and just, say, yeah. Okay, well, the most important thing is that we had the conversation and we can now,
Yeah.
run on and see what the end might be. They'll probably find a way to get out of it without really addressing anything.
Yeah.
One of the, I don't know if I put any pitfalls around it, but I do have an example about the politician. I think the main thing about dealing with a politician is that they are going to find a way to just avoid committing to any real solutions because they usually have a problem addressing the actual issue, So it's going to be hard to pin these people down and keep them consistent about everything because they live in the gray.
Yeah.
But in one of the examples I had, this past spring, I watched every single episode of SWV Times Escape.
Okay.
And I was telling you about this show, and I was like, you have got to see Latasha, I think her name is Latasha Scott, behave on this show. She's the absolute worst person.
Yeah.
If you watch it, there's a lot of hoopla. Well, you did. You were like, I can't do that.
I can't. Yeah.
But I was like, just watch how she fights.
Yeah.
Look at her style. And she is truly the politician because they were asking her very specific questions, very specific topics. You took my $20,000. $20,000? You ever heard of $20,000? I never even heard the amount of, she would just play crazy. They were like, your husband, tried to get money in a side deal off of us. And they handed her printouts of the text messages. And she said, what is this I'm looking at? They were like, a printout of the text messages. These are text messages? Between who? Text messages between your husband and the promoter. I don't know. I've never heard of such a thing. So y'all believe text messages? Again, deflecting the conversation. We're not talking about anything other than what the context is. So you think this is you think this is from my husband? In another interview I saw her with, someone was, I think it was on the Ricky Smiley show. And the brat said something like, they didn't know who Ricky Bevins was or something. And she said, they said it was your husband. So my husband is Ricky Bevins. They didn't know my husband's name. Oh, okay. And it's like, is that your husband? Is your husband Ricky Bevins or whatever, Bivens or whatever his name is? Come to find out, yeah, nigga, your husband. I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, your husband. You acting like these people that said this strange name to you. It really is your husband. I said, these people are just insane. But I was like, just watch her style. She won't cop to a thing.
Wow. Okay.
That's all I want you to watch for. Don't get caught up in the fray, but just see these people at work because they do exist.
Moving on.
Moving on
The next one, the last one.
The last horseman.
Stonewalling.
Stonewalling.
Tell us what stonewalling is.
Yeah. Stonewalling is when the listener withdraws from the interaction, they shut down, they simply just stop responding to their partner.
Yeah.
And you know what? I do want to talk about this a little bit more, but something just went bing, and I wanted to say it earlier. I want to say this earlier. We're going to hop back to defensiveness. Because you said something and it made me think about this certain type of apology. The problem with all these defensive people is that they lack accountability. And when they finally get to the point where I guess they want to apologize, they generally give an apology that goes something like this. I'm sorry you feel this way.
Yeah.
And so again, it is, they are not really apologizing. They're not really accepting ownership of anything. They're just saying, I'm sorry that you feel this way. And the person on the other side of that apology is saying, but do you understand how your behavior, your choices caused me to feel this way? And what happens is, me and you, we've had this conversation round and
Mm-hmm.
round and round, and other people
Mm-hmm.
round and round. And it's like, for some reason, the apology, the apology that is needed is, I am sorrowful, or I'm sorry for the way my actions made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Right.
You know?
Well, I know I stopped apologizing that way, but it's very, very difficult because that's what we talked about. It's difficult. I'm gonna say when you
Come on,
when
preacher.
oh, come on, yeah. But it's difficult to apologize for something when the individual knows what their intentions were, number one, and number two, apologizing is feeling like you are maybe accepting the blame or responsibility, and that's hard. You may not be able to understand that, but me personally being in those situations or in those scenarios, it's hard because I don't want to. It's like I'm admitting wrong, where it wasn't wrong. Because let's be honest, sometimes the person does feel offended, but sometimes offense doesn't take place. They just feel offended, right? That is a real scenario. So it's hard. It's hard on my part, or somebody that's, I guess we could use defensive or whatever we want to use. It's just hard to offer that up because it's like you're admitting guilt.
You know what we say, we talk about this too.
Yeah.
You use different language than me, right? Like, you are a very black white person, so you will say, okay, by saying this, I'm admitting guilt and I'm admitting blame, or I'm taking blame, I'm admitting my guilt, and somehow I'm wrong. And I'm like, it doesn't have to mean any of those things that because I don't like saying you're the blame, it's your fault, you were wrong, da 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 da. I try not to approach it with that language, because
Yeah.
I can tell you what, if somebody approached me with those inflammatory words, immediate defensiveness, So I do not lead with that, right? Instead, I lead with how I felt as a result. So I felt misunderstood and cut off by, or shut down or something when you did this, any other, or whatever it is. I don't even know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
No, I get what you're saying.
But I felt left out of the discussion when you made the decision or something. I don't know. I can't think that quick on my feet today for some reason. But and if you say, well, sorry you feel that way, I'm like, but do you understand how I felt that way, how I arrived at that feeling? Because I didn't get there on my own. There was an interaction that occurred. So yeah, I might feel this way, but you had a role in this as well. And all I say is, own whatever role you might have had in it.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I've learned how to, like, that's, I didn't mean it that way. I learned how to say I didn't mean it that way. Sorry, what I said, made you feel this way. I've learned how to do that.
You have, yes.
It doesn't make it. It doesn't make it. It doesn't change how it feels. It's still like, sometimes it's a misunderstanding on the other person's part, solely on them. Sometimes it is like that. You know what I mean? So, like, you just misheard, or sometimes it's like that. But still, even having to do that still feels like I'm still copping to something that I didn't do. That's what it feels like. I'm talking about what it feels like. But I'm talking about what it is. I'm saying that's what it feels like. And that's what, because I have that feeling, or a person like that has that feeling, it's hard to maybe give me a genuine apology without, saying like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's not what I meant, or that's not what I intended, or whatever. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I've learned to watch because language definitely matters. Tone definitely matters. Language matters. So I've learned how to, meter my words, but the feeling is still there. So, yeah. Okay, you want to take a break?
No,
You sure?
I'm sure. I'm thinking through it because I really just wanted to be able to explain how frustrating it is to be in the ring with a defensive person who won't humble themselves enough to just understand you do play a role in a conflict. A conflict has to it has to have two or more parties, right? So if you and I are having an interaction and one of us leaves that interaction feeling slighted or offended or saddened or something by whatever that exchange is, then it is a direct result of something that happened between the two, right? And depending on my approach, if my approach is, to call you in and say, hey, I would like to talk to you about what just went down. Here's how I left feeling, were you aware that this happened? So sometimes you can lead with curiosity to disarm the person, right? And so that's a skill too. But if you go in like, wait, how dare you say something like that to me? You immediately put the other person on defense, and then they are caught up in, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. What do you mean? You got it all wrong. That's a whole different scenario too. But I'm saying, say it's the most ideal situation. The person led with, wanting to get clarity, wanting to mend fences, whatever, and they're met with a defensive person who leaves this exchange or gets through all that and is like, sorry you feel that way. I'm so sorry for you. Yeah, it sucks to be you right now, right? Because you just feel this way all by yourself. And I would not do that. That wasn't my intention. Therefore, I can't be wrong. So, again, sorry for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't leave the other party feeling
valued or heard or anything like that. Yeah.
It is a little bit invalidating, and I can guarantee it will leave a little room for some contempt or resentment to maybe fester.
I'm sure it does. I mean, because just as it's frustrating on the, I say your end because you taking the position you're taking.
I would say offender, offendee, maybe.
Okay, so just as frustrating it is for the offendee, the offender is just as frustrated. It's just as frustrating because that wasn't their intention. I get it, and maybe I don't know if this is like splitting hairs or whatever it is, but it's just difficult. It's difficult, man.
I appreciate you explaining it. Can I tell you the easiest apology for me to give is an apology when I intended no harm. And that's what gets me so like so kind of funky about people who apologize the way that we describe.
Right.
Sorry you feel that way. Is because if your intentions truly were pure and good and right, and you really don't mean any harm, when somebody comes to me and says that I harmed them and it is news to me, and I'm shocked that something I said or did slighted them, you're going to get the best apology from me.
Wow.
From me.
Yeah, I get it. Check the time. We good.
I think we're good.
Okay, so the easiest apology for me is when I know I did you wrong or I did something wrong. That's easier for me because, in my opinion, that's more. It's like a more genuine apology when I can understand that I did something wrong. See, you think you caught me or something?
No, I didn't. I saw
I know
myself.
I know your smile and chuckle and all that stuff. You think you got me or something?
I
But
did
I'm not.
I saw myself. I
Okay.
saw a glimpse of myself.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So when I understand, when I get it that deep down in me that I've hurt somebody or I did something wrong, that is an easier apology for me than when either I feel like I did nothing wrong, or in actuality I did nothing wrong. I don't know if that's even possible that you can do nothing wrong, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like it was just truly just a misunderstanding or a mishearing or a misspeaking, or you know what I mean? Even if I misspoke, but oh my bad, I meant this. You get what I'm saying? But I think it's just asking the defensive. I don't know. The position I'm taking. I say you're asking me. It feels like you're asking me or somebody in this position to apologize for how you feel, and that's difficult. You know what I'm saying?
But-
Because people can get offended by different things. You know what I mean? Like what's big to one person may be really, really small to somebody else.
Right.
And so, but now that I'm talking through it, I get that part of it because we just don't know. So it's, you do need to apologize. I get that. I don't talk myself into that part of it, but
I'm like, okay, round the bend
that
on
part,
it, 'cause
but but
you
that part
gonna
I
agree
get
with
it.
me
I get it.
eventually.
I get it. I agree with that part. But do you understand the position or what I'm saying?
Yes, I will reduce it down to one word, and it may be unfair, but it is pride.
On whose part? You gonna? Wow.
Yours or the people you're describing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it all comes down to a source of pride or a ego or pride, something like that. Like I can't be wrong here, or if I'm
not
wrong,
saying you can't be wrong. I'm not saying that.
not like you can't be wrong, like you're incapable. I'm saying that when I look at the scenario that caused the breach, I can't be wrong because I didn't do anything on purpose. I didn't even mean to. I can't be wrong here, right? It is the way that defensive people typically see it like that. Like, or if I am wrong, then it's only because of how you are misunderstanding it or how you might have caused me to do that, or it's usually, again, what we talk about is no accountability, no real accountability for whatever.
But can it be that though?
Can it be what?
That the offended, it's just how they perceive it and how they taking it. It can be that too. You know what I mean? It can be.
I'm not saying.
Gotta take a break. Well, we probably gotta take a break because we can go on about this forever.
We can, but I want to make this point.
Okay.
Hey there, are you enjoying the conversation as much as we are? Then let us know. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're here every other Thursday with a brand new episode, and you do not want to miss it. Okay, all right, back to the conversation. The point I am trying to make here is that it might be the person's perception of things, and it could be that they did get it wrong, right? But they are also entitled to their feelings on whatever went down, right? So here's why I would always suggest lead with curiosity first, lead with, the intention of repairing any breaches or mending fences, whatever. If you go into it straight up with, okay, I already know I've been wronged for sure, and I already know I'm going to go at you and I'm going to demand an apology, you're probably not going to get it, especially if you're engaging with somebody that is a preacher, performer, or politician. You probably going to fail.
Yeah.
So, but overall, I'm saying if I were to approach it and keep a little bit of margin that I might have perceived the situation incorrectly, then when I say, hey, can we talk about what went down? I left that thinking, or I left that feeling. Did I get Did I get that right? Or what? How did you leave that situation?
Yeah.
It opens up the opportunity for, people to talk about how they saw it. So if I'm bringing it to you and you say, no, I thought everything was fine. Well, I didn't have any problems. Then it's like, you know what? Well, I want to mention to you there was something in particular you said, and when I heard that or you did that, it made me feel this, that, and the other. And I really want to make sure that you understand things like that are things I take offense to, or I will prefer you not do it that way. You can talk about that.
Yeah.
And then once that's brought up and the reaction is, oh, okay, well, sorry you felt that way. That wasn't my intention. I share with you, I said another way of saying that, again, like you said, words matter. And we talk about intellect and emotional maturity. We're trying to all, at least here, we're still elevating.
Yeah.
And looking for a better way of being, in relationship to one another, right? So instead, for me, I said, what will help me is if you respond like say I might have perceived it the way I did, regardless of how you intended it. You might not even agree with my perception. You still might be thinking, well, how'd you get from A to B with that? And you might not, but don't belittle it.
Right.
Don't dismiss it.
Right.
Still treat me with loving kindness and say something like this. You know what? I didn't see it that way, but since you explained to me how you saw it, I can understand how you arrived there. And now that I have a better understanding of that, I would like to apologize for my role. And something like that. You're still acknowledging everything that was brought up without saying, in my world, I'm innocent. In your world,
that's not what I'm saying. But I do get, I do get that. I'm sorry you feel that way. I do understand how that's bad. That's a bad look and a bad sound. You know what I mean? I get it. I get all of that. But I just want to. I felt like I just needed to say what I said, so I said it.
And you said it, okay. So, I'm glad we have figured out a way to extend apologies to each other. Oh yeah, that's the other part I wanted to say, because I caught a glimpse of myself. Not you, but if I absolutely meant to do harm, that's the hardest apology I will ever give.
Yeah.
And there is a 99%, I'm actually drop it down and keep it real with myself. There's a 98% chance.
Oh, you went down 1%. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give myself a little 2% margin here. That the apology I give is not going to be wholehearted.
Yeah.
It's going to be 98% genuine. Because that 2% is going to be reserved for, no, you deserve whatever you got.
Yeah.
And there's that part of me that still needs salvation.
Yeah.
There's that part of me that still has need of a savior or a redeemer or something.
Yeah.
Because I still got some ways about me, where
I'm
like,
we all do.
oh, I can still give it as good as I got it, So that's why I'm saying that's the hardest apology I can ever say, is the one that I absolutely meant to do harm. Because I'm still like, shoot, I'm going to add a little bit more to it before I take any of that back. You had it coming.
And on the subject of apologies, another side, we got to keep moving, but another side is like, I don't ever want to demand an apology or say to someone, you owe me an apology. Because even if they do it at that time, it could be genuine, but I feel like it has a lesser chance of being genuine because somebody's like, I demand an apology or I want an apology because you did X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I would rather somebody would come on their own. And that way I feel like it's more genuine. A genuine apology. That's how I feel. I don't ever want somebody to be pressured into an apology.
Yeah.
Because that really can't be like,
No.
well, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. Are you okay? All right. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of, but anyway.
Nobody likes a forced
Right,
apology,
right. So-
and it doesn't land very well. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Move
scooch
on.
along to stonewalling. Like we said, that's the last four. That's the fourth horseman of divorce, and it's when the listener withdraws from the interaction, they shut down, or they simply stop responding to their partner. And I just wanted to say that this could be in the heat of the fight, but it can also be just in general.
Yeah.
Because and some of these people that we're describing are people that all of them, people that we know, right? And, there's one particular couple, the husband would not talk. He would leave and not even say bye to his family.
Yeah.
He would not talk and engage with his family. He would just sit there and observe and watch. If we were at their home, he'd come in from work, be like, "What's up?" Go to his room. Wouldn't see him. He would act like Uncle Pete.
Yeah.
And so he was so disengaged. And part of it was because his wife was so overbearing and just, like kind of hard-headed. Like anything he tried to suggest, she was critical, things like that. So he finally got to the point where he was just like, do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
Whatever. It don't matter anyway. So you watched this divide occur. And I'm like, yeah.
And that's what what you saying, the placator. Right?
Oh, yeah, we can go. So, yes.
Placator, appease or pacify. They say words like, sure, fine, whatever you want. Or whatever you say. Or, okay, have it your way. Passive aggressive. Appears to be on board. How you say that word?
It's okay. Surreptitious. What is going on? Surreptitiously. Why are we having this moment?
Well, because it's,
oh my gosh.
Late in the day.
Surreptitiously. So
Sabotage.
Secretly, privately, underhandedly, right? Sabotage it.
They sabotage efforts,
Yeah. Everything they do is more covert. They gonna get, But anyway.
And the pitfalls of that, it breeds resentment, they're disingenuous, and it breaks trust in the relationship. So, yeah. You want to expound, or you want to go on to the next one? I think you did a good job.
This particular person, the husband and wife that we were referring to, he wasn't necessarily, well, he was kind of a placater, but also in some ways, I guess
probably take the attitude that she's gonna do whatever she want to do. So
anyway, you're gonna do whatever you want to do anyway. So fine, whatever. Yeah. And there's someone else that comes to mind, a different thing, where how this might show up, right? There was a couple. She wanted him to start planning more of the dates and showing up just a little bit more in their marriage, taking the lead on romance and stuff like that. But whenever he did, she would be either critical, like, I don't really like that. Why would we go here? Or she would undermine what he was doing by saying, instead of this, why don't we go here instead? Or, you know what, I actually heard about this other place. Let's do this, da-da-da-da-da. And, after a while, it just deflated him. And I don't think he ever said, everything I suggest, you cut me off and you do it what you want. So now I'm just not going to suggest anything. And so the problem was he don't take the lead in nothing.
Yeah.
He don't plan nothing. He da-da-da. And I'm like, because, and then in the other breath, it's like, you know what? He just so laid back and easygoing. He just, he's okay with whatever I do. And I'm like,
maybe not.
Maybe not. He's basically like, sure, fine. Yep. Whatever you decide.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the episode Serenity Now, Insanity Later.
Yeah.
Because the opposite of that is now you've turned this person into somebody who I shouldn't say you turn them. That's not fair. This person,
Because he still has a responsibility to speak up.
yes, this person has just decided that, you know what, I'm not being heard anyway. Nobody,
Or it could be he's just like, I'm just going to avoid any kind of backlash, anything. It was just gonna, just gonna go along to get along. I guess it's pretty much what we're saying, but it could be. It may not always be that they totally disengage and all that stuff. Totally, maybe.
I think it is totally
Yeah.
disengaging because it says the listener withdraws,
Yeah.
shuts down, or simply stops responding to their partner.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're not offering up anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I would think. But I do think I think it's disingenuous. Why it can breed resentment. I think it can breed resentment on both sides.
Right.
I think it could be two-pronged like the other thing we discussed. I don't know if that was in this one or before. Or the previous episode with the
whatever we did.
person. But I think it can breed resentment because if this person feels if they're in a relationship and they feel like nothing I have to say or offer up is being taken seriously or even being considered, or there's no room for me to express myself and get my needs met, then I'll just keep it to myself. That's unfair, and that's kind of like you always get what you want. And then the other person will say, because I ask you and you never say what you want.
Because every time I say something,
you do the opposite or
cut
something.
my knees off of it.
Yeah, so it just creates resentment and it's just unfair to both parties.
Both parties got to take responsibility on that one. All right, let's move on. Peacekeeper is the next one. Peacekeeper avoids confrontation / conflict, pretends nothing is wrong, takes no position. I would say martyr, sacrifice their own self-interest. It appears like good intentions, and I can safely say, in my former life,
your former life,
that was my fault. That was my go-to move a lot of times because I've expressed it before. I don't like confrontation. I didn't like confrontation, and I would sacrifice my own interests just to keep the peace. You know what I mean? And that I can speak from experience that will breed resentment and contempt. Even though when a person behaves like that, or when I behave like that, not speaking up, I still felt it on the inside. I felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted or needed. You know what I mean? But, not understanding and knowing how to, fight properly. You know what I mean? Was what led me to that kind of behavior. When I say fight properly, I just mean like speaking up without it being angry. Without, without me being speaking up out of anger and being disrespectful versus just stating, hey, I would rather not do that today. You know what I mean? Or, instead of, I don't feel it, I'm tired. You know what I mean? Instead of, it feel like that's kind of how I would show up sometimes when I want to speak up for myself, I guess, or say what I want to do. You know what I mean? It would come off wrong. So not really understanding and knowing how to do that, I sacrificed my own interests and became resentful and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about that. A similar type of that would be the putty person. We had that in the previous episode about dealing with difficult people and how growing up in certain environments just kind of breeds or is a breeding ground for certain behaviors. So like the putty person and this, that, and the other. And it's all ineffective overall because I know I keep saying we're trying to keep this between a loving romantic relationship, but I had a conversation with a person last week, and this person had taken the role of peacekeeper, and as a result, they were a witness to a lot of issues and situations that caused me harm. And they saw it, heard it, witnessed it, and chose to stay quiet.
Took no position.
They took no position. And it created a huge rift in our relationship. And even caused us to go over nearly 5 years, if not longer. Actually longer, but especially the last 5 years, it caused me to not have anything to do with this person. So when we're having a conversation and we're talking through some things, we were talking last week, I said, you know, the person said, I just chose to stay quiet. I saw it. I know I don't want to get in it because I know how people act, and I just would rather just stay out and just not say anything. And I said, you know, but now 5 years later or more, you're telling me that you recognize that it was wrong. And I told her, I said, I interpreted your silence as either consent, that you were okay with how I was being treated, or indifference to how I was being treated. And either one of those is hurtful.
Yeah.
Because I would have welcomed you to stand up and take a position of what is happening is wrong. You know, staying quiet doesn't help anybody in the situation, right? And I told her how ineffective it was, and also how it did impact our relationship, right?
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, as a result of no one standing up and speaking out against what was happening to me, it actually turned me into a peacemaker. I would say a peacemaker.
Yeah.
But moreover, I became the person who will speak up. I'm used to being on the fringe of stuff, you know, like whatever. But if I see something going down and I think it's wrong, or somebody's being mistreated or whatever, I'm going to say, no, not like that. And I said, I wish you would have done that for me.
Yeah.
People need to know who has their back. They need to hear that out loud. I think we talked about that many episodes ago, where some scripture that said, I would rather know that you hate me publicly than you love me privately.
Right.
Don't be keeping quiet and not speaking up, and then you're going to tell me, well, I really understood. I know why you did what you did, and I get it because it was wrong.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me.
Right.
It would have helped me in the moment, you know? And so, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you're talking about. You went right into the pitfalls.
Yeah.
They disengage when they're
When
needed. And they're not contributing real solutions, and just ineffective. I've been there. I've been all those. I've displayed all of those at one point in time or another. So yeah, it's short. It's just very ineffective behavior, you know. So it's more of a selfish behavior, because you're actually really just protecting your own interests, your own feelings. You know what I mean? To say I don't want to get engaged, or I'm not getting in it, when you see wrongdoing or somebody being harmed. So you're just protecting your own interests, your own feelings, you know, which is ineffective. So
yeah, and that's why I say it appears like it's good intentions, because they're not messing up. They're not adding fuel, or they're not getting into the fray, or whatever. But actually, yeah, it may not be. But we've had talks. We're seeing ourselves through a different lens. We're looking through the rear view, and so we can see ourselves a little bit more clearly in hindsight. And also we can see how much we've grown and evolved since then. So, yep.
All right, we went through all the negative fight styles.
Yes, we sure did.
All the fighting styles that come with issues, pettiness, and all the stuff we went through. All the P's. How many P's was it?
Lots of
9,
P's.
8, 7. I
I
don't
don't know. We
But
went through
anyway,
several P's.
so what did you? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was going to say the main difference between, or the common denominator between all of those P's that we just discussed and the role that they play, or how we assign them to the four horsemen of divorce, is that every last one of them are ways of calling people out. They are the least effective ways to manage conflict, to show up in a fight. Nothing gets resolved with those types of fighters.
Right.
Nothing, right? So the last fighting style is what we're calling the champion fighter, right? Which is, well,
The champion fighter is a peacemaker. What is a peacemaker, you might ask? I'll tell you. Does it avoid conflict? Emotion. You can, if you want to jump in and say something, you go right in. Doesn't avoid conflict. Emotionally mature. Uses their wise mind.
I will jump in here, okay?
I knew you would.
Just in case anyone doesn't understand that language, their wise mind. So, we have our emotional mind, and then we have our rational mind. And sometimes if we're operating too far into emotions, sometimes we're going to have an irrational idea about things. And then sometimes if we're operating too much into rationale, we lose empathy for the other party because we're not fully understanding the emotions attached to what's going on. So ultimately what we want to do is, using like a Venn diagram, we want to create a merge, we want to overlap it some, and we want to use our wise mind, which includes rationale with emotion, right? So that we can use wisdom, use knowledge, get an understanding.
With all that get an
Yes.
understanding.
So we want to operate in our wise mind
And getting an
in fights.
Yeah, and getting in the process of getting understanding, that takes time sometimes. A lot of times. Or all the time. I don't know. Pick one. It's not always a quick resolution. Sometimes in conflict or when like I said, emotions are high, you want a quick resolution. You know what I mean? But to get a full understanding, that's gonna take time. You gotta go into your prayer closet or go meditate or whatever to try to get the best understanding you can get. And it involves asking questions, you know what I mean, having conversations. So that's not quick. That's not a quick fix. So
No, and it's getting an understanding of yourself and your role in it, and also the other parties. Yep.
Next one, you're hopeful.
Yes.
Talk about a peacemaker. They're hopeful.
Yes. Whereas all the others they lack hope. There is really no pathway to redemption. There's no way forward. It all just kind of shuts down the progress, right? But the peacemaker is hopeful that the relationship can continue beyond this breach, right? And it can be maybe even better.
Yeah. You're going to have to explain this one probably.
Okay.
And has an internal locus of control.
Yes. So the way I would describe it is a person with an internal locus of control recognizes that by their own efforts, by their own wisdom, their own resources, or their ability to use resources, that they can impact the world around them. They can change things, right? A person who has an external locus of control tends to think everything in the world that is happening upon them. They have no control over life, or how things happen. So they usually kind of go through life reacting to anything and everything, right? A person with an internal locus of control recognizes that I have the power within me to impact my environment. I can change what's happening. I can make lemons. What is it? Make lemonade out of lemons, things like that versus, somebody else is like, well, the person with the external, if somebody just happens to bring me some lemons, maybe, but then I'll need somebody else to bring me sugar and where am I going to get this water from? Whereas the other party is like, I know where I can get lemons, sugar, and water. And I know I can make some lemonade out of this and I can, So long short of it.
All right. The peacemaker also is curious as opposed to accusatory. So that means just ask questions. Don't point the finger like you know what I mean? You did this, and I know you did it because of the XYZ. Ask questions. You did this. Is there a reason why, or did you do it because of XYZ? Just be curious. Ask questions. They're accountable as opposed to deflecting. Same, we talked about that a little bit. Take ownership of your role in the conflict versus, example would be, I only reacted like this because you did this. That's deflecting. Just because something happened to you doesn't necessarily, doesn't mean it doesn't give us the right to react poorly. It's tough not to.
Sure is.
It's tough. Not saying it's easy, but that doesn't give us license to behave poorly. So,
yep.
Peacemaker is also open to moving beyond the breach. That's a big one.
Yes.
They're trying to, I feel like they're trying, peacemaker, they're searching for ways to say, if I need to apologize, I'm going to apologize. If I need to make amends, I'm going to make amends because I value the relationship and I don't want this to take us out. You know what I mean? And that will happen a lot in marriage. Yeah. Because we don't want to do divorce. So we're going to divorce. Yeah. Sometimes we got to find a way to, get beyond that breach. You gotta make a way.
Yeah.
Peace make a way beyond the breach. You know what I mean? So
yes. I would also add that, darn it, I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
You said they are interested in moving beyond the breach.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I hadn't lost it. It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as I said before, they are the only fighter that is interested in calling in versus calling out. And by that, I mean, it is so easy to call people out when they're wrong, right? It's easy to point the finger. It's easy to create a list of grievances and just go at them, right? Or it's easy to avoid. It's easy to pretend like nothing happened, or if it happened, it wasn't so bad. All of those things are easy, cheap, lazy ways of behaving, right? Yeah. What is more that requires a higher consciousness, a higher level of intellect, a higher level of emotional maturity, spiritual awareness, and things of that nature, is being able to call people back in, right? That is where we talk about, moving beyond the breach, is how can I evaluate this or assess this in a way that we can move past this breach. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I'm going to come back to this point. Also, peacemaking means can also require or include setting boundaries and creating new standards of behaving too, right? Yeah. So being curious and not deflecting and all that stuff, wonderful. But sometimes the peacemaker's biggest task is to say, okay, I'm aware that this happened. Let's not let this happen again. Yeah. What are some guardrails we're going to put in place so that this won't happen again? Okay. And so boundaries, standards, saying, okay, if we going to fall out, don't say nothing else about my mama or, or something, or my greasy headed granny. We're going to keep it above board or whatnot. So sometimes that's required too. But going back to calling people in, It is what we ultimately want to do is to get beyond the breach so that we can have a better understanding of how to engage and relate to one another in a respectful way, in a way that honors each other's humanity, and also keeps the door open so that if a future conflict occurs, then we have created a safe space where it's like, I know I can bring something to you and we can work on getting it resolved.
Yeah.
Or you can bring it to me and I'm not going to bite your head off or mush you and say, get out of here with that. It's not going to happen. So it just helps to, it only helps to enhance the relationship. Yeah. So I will say, I think there's only one pitfall of being a peacemaker. There's really only one pitfall of it, is that while a peacemaker may gain peace because they will, address the situation and they will be hopeful and they will be ready to move forward, they might run into one of those other types of fighters who just is ill-equipped to do the work. And as a result, they will, as much as they have tried, they will end up losing the relationship because the fighters just weren't on their level. And that is a hard truth and a hard reality, is when you really are trying to make peace and move forward and the other party is not, all you got to do is receive some grace to let these people go.
Yeah, and that's the tough part of it. With me being a relationship person, I tried to make sure I would do everything within me to keep the relationship, from moving forward, from falling apart. But even then, sometimes it still doesn't work out that way, and it's sad. It really is sad to me. Like, that's how it makes me feel. It's just sad and unfortunate, because I don't like to see any, I will say it, and I qualify, but I don't like to see any relationship end, but I do understand that some relationships do have to end for peace and for, to keep other parties from getting harmed or something like that. So I do understand that, but I just wish for, like, the person that's doing the harm, and I wish they will be able to come to maturity, or whatever you want to call it, or come to an understanding and say, hey, my behavior is not right, it's ineffective, and I'm going to try to make the change to keep keep the relationship going. That's my hope, that it would be like that. I'm built that way, and I don't think I will ever change, and I always hope for that, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So, gotta live with it.
It doesn't. We want everybody to stay emotionally safe, physically safe,
right,
spiritually safe. And although we discussed some of these other fighting styles and some of these behaviors that the Gottman Institute said will indicate that you're headed to divorce, or the relationship is heading down the path of destruction, it is possible to change course if you want to. Right. But everybody has to want it. And if you are a peacemaker, if you've reached the level of maturity that it takes to become a peacemaker, it is challenging, and it will require a lot of practice.
Yeah.
No matter what. Otherwise, you're going to end up in loveless, hate-filled relationships, marriages.
Yeah.
But if both parties really, really want to move past the breach and really really make it work. If both parties really want to make it work, then they will do their personal work.
Yep.
They will do their personal work. And again, we talk about it from the lens of marriage, but this extends across the board. That sometimes relationships with family, sometimes relationships with friends, sometimes relationships with coworkers, church folks, you know, whatever else, you know, it has to come to an end because the two parties are not aligned. And but if you're a peacemaker, don't give up the good fight. Continue, keep your heart open and allow the right people to find you. And I'm gonna end on this because I think it's a scripture that says something like, as much as it lies within you, live peaceably with others. As much as it lies within you, do what you can do. And if others do not want to live peaceably with you, send them on their way. Okay? So, in our next episode, we are going to talk a little bit about the breach and repair process. We're going to keep this going. We got a couple more episodes to go over in our series, Fighting to Win. If you are enjoying it, if you are learning anything, if it's helping you, please be sure to let us know and encourage our hearts so we can keep going, okay?
All right now.
All right. So until next time.
See ya.
Take good care. Bye-bye.